Welcome to the weekly Roc Open Mic. We do this, folks. We do this call because you folks asked us to. You wanted to hear what we've been working on, what we fixed, and you wanted to do a little R&D or rob and duplicate of the automation ideas that your MSP peers have. A couple of reminders. Add time savings to your workflows. The best workflows are the easiest ones to forget. Also, this is a highly technical call. So if you're a decision maker or a buyer of Rewst and you have someone else doing the automations within your MSP or outside of your MSP, this could be extremely technical, and that's okay. Just realize that this is a call for the techie automation folks. Also, some other things going on. Some of you have noticed that the results page, you can configure the retention to the results page. No matter what number you put in there, the max will be around 30 to 31 days. This is because some workflows on a single day will generate up to 800 gigabytes of logs that we're storing. And that's a single workflow for a single customer. It's a lot of data. And we don't charge you for all this data. And so it's a 30-day maximum for storing of result data in the product. This has nothing to do with time savings. This has nothing to do with all the charts and graphs on the front page. This is just the results data. And yes, I'd blame Giga. It's easy to blame him for most things. Also, there's something going on with Pax8 and their network. We love Pax8. We're really, really good friends with Pax8, but right now Pax8 is rejecting our requests with a 429, too many requests there. We have escalated it throughout Pax8. They are working on it. We don't have a reason why. I don't think they do either. And so once they get to resolution, all our Pax8 requests will stop doing a 429 and will actually succeed. So the impact to you is not if you use Pax8, is likely more around workflows in the nature of client new user add and client user termination. So if you use Pax8, please check the status or results of those workflows, probably starting around 11 a.m. Eastern today, is about when Pax8 started sending the error. We will post in Discord once Pax8 reaches out to us and says the error is resolved. The good news is like I said, we're very, very friendly with each other. We really like each other. It's not a situation where it's a type of product that glues two things together that does not feel the same way about us. And with that, I think that's, oh, wait a second. It's that time of the year again. I can remind you folks about Flow, and I get to do that every single week now, and I totally missed it when I didn't get to remind you folks before. Please go to mspflow.events and register. Right now, we have an early bird. Flow is pretty inexpensive because we're not looking to make money on it. We're looking to just have a cool place, a safe place for all the automation folks to hang out and talk automation with each other. And with that, I'm going to throw this towards Ash. What's going on, Ash?
Hey, thanks. All right, so just one note, next week, I believe, is Black Friday in the US. But we will still have our international takeover. So for those of you who still like to be around or consider that like a down day, we'll still be here. Yeah, we'll still have some fun. So the next order of business on that note is on top of that, everybody is so busy with their year-end stuff because they're off next week. So we did have 2 cancellations, but I do have 2 demos and a maybe from Alden. So we'll see how our timing goes. But before I ramble on anymore, I'm actually going to jump over to JP, who is going to do our marketplace update for us.
Hello, everyone. All right. We added a workflow input for new user onboarding that basically just adds some additional functionality for people using it as wrappers or using a wrapper with that workflow. We deployed 2 new crate refactors, configure out of Office mailbox crate and the amend mailbox permissions crate. We also made a small bug fix for the get and set org variables workflow. And we have a few up and coming crates that we're also going to be releasing. We hope to be releasing at least a few a week. So a lot of good things coming up soon. That's it.
Thank you. All right. Brandon, that's over to you.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. Hope you had a great week. Go ahead and share my screen here. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Now I'm just going to do this to troll you guys. All right. Let's dive in with the game tip of the week. So on December 1st, Mod Retro's Chromatic, a modern take on the Game Boy Color, is going to come out with a slew of new indie games that can be played on the OG Game Boy as well as the Chromatic. The lineup looks really, really cool, and there's been a bunch of reviews that are really, really good. So check it out if you are interested in old school handheld gaming. There's a couple of them that I'm going to start with. There's Dragonim and Chantley. One of them is like, it looks like a, I don't know, they took Dragon Quest and Pokemon and put it together. And then the other one is a pirate rhythm game, which sounds amazing. So I'm going to check those out. I'll let you guys know how that is. Other than that, Dragon Quest 3 is amazing. It is a bit of a grind, but they make the grind fun. So if you're into grinding, you should check out Dragon Quest 3. That was probably not a good pitch, nor should it have been something on a recorded call. Anyway, let's go to our shout-outs. Shout-outs to Narvada, Alex, Aaron, Mitchell, Eugene, Andrew, Jonathan, and Colby for passing the foundation certification. You guys will get your certified rooster badge in Discord, and you will get access to our super secret Discord channel. It's not so super secret. And also shout-outs to Alexander, Aaron, Shannon, RJ, Brian, and Charles for passing the clean automation certification. You guys are awesome. For those of you who are new, if you haven't already, go ahead and check out the CluckU section of our Rewst.help site and get going on that content. You will learn a bunch of things and you will be able to engage more deeply in the community. And it is an awesome community, and you guys will continue to get value out of Rewst. So excited about that. Just as a reminder, we do have a Foundations Bootcamp. This is taking our Foundations training and cramming it into 2 days with some extra time with the legendary Eddie Chow. He's so legendary, I think he popped up on LinkedIn the other day, so everybody should shout out Eddie. He loves being told that he's legendary, by the way, so definitely make sure to let him know. But there are two days. There's going to be a Monday and Tuesday where we do lessons 1 through 3 and then lessons 4 through 7. Otherwise, if you haven't already, check out our Discord channel, CluckU, for any questions that you have during training, and you can sign up for office hours for any questions you have with the legendary Eddie Chow as well. Other than that, not a ton of major updates today. Just as a reminder, we do have some areas where you can give us feedback and ideas. Obviously, in Discord, If you guys are in there, you can always let us know if there's anything that you want to see fixed or added or anything along those lines. We'd like to take a look at that there. But we do have some forms that you can fill out here, as well as Canny. So if you're going to Canny to request any product feature requests or anything like that, you can give us some of that information there as well. Otherwise, we've just updated a few of the items on our Autotask and ConnectWise integration setup pages. We are going through and getting those updated to align with what you actually need to do to get those set up and working. So more to come on that. But otherwise, that's it for me this week. Back to you, Ash.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we are through our internal updates. Now we are going to jump over to our first demo, which is going to be Derrick. You're up.
All right, hello. While I'm getting my shared screen up, I'd just like to say that the image you see is one of our techs who just passed his Net Plus cert. And in response, we all decided to change our team's photos to his mugshot. So always fun. Okay, so we had a client recently reach out to us after a pretty large compromise, and he wanted a way to actively scan all of his computers in his fairly large network for any files that contain the word password in it, which if anybody else is a cyber guy, those are bad. For any of our Huntress people out there, yes, Huntress can report on these, but it's really only when they're interacted with. So we like to find those ones that are old. So I started with this. My big challenge was how to query individual computers and then gather all that information in one place. I didn't initially want to use SQL, but we ended up going with SQL. I think it's really cool because it leverages our RMM by running a scheduled job first that essentially searches through all of the drives on the computer. It obviously will only search through like C users for right now. That way we're not picking up system files and other things. And then packages all that into a nice little JSON, a nested JSON that includes the computer GUID, computer name, our data site name, things like that. And then from there, I made a form where you just simply request what the data site name is and where you want the email to be sent to. And it pulls up or sends you a nifty little email where you can download a CSV report. So if we're going to use this for our routine health checks, things like that. So it'd be nice to have a little CSV report. And this is really what I sent to our end client. And, he really liked it. And he had mentioned, though, they're not all Excel handy. So he'd like it if there was a way to have the information kind of already in a table. Doesn't have to make it into a table and all of that. So, of course, I thought, well, I can do that in app platform. And so I spent a day or two. I'm still pretty new in app platform. Got it working and promptly broke it after I asked if I could display it and demo it. But I did manage to grab a screenshot of the working version. I had to redact out our customers' private file information and stuff. But yeah, this is essentially what they would get. I didn't spend a lot of time, obviously, crafting the other parts of it. But yeah, essentially, I'm hoping that we can get this out in like a partner portal, and then all of our partners can have this data whenever they want it.
I just posted this in chat, but that use case, you have a workflow and then you figure out, hey, if I just had a UI around this workflow, wouldn't it be awesome? Is exactly why we did App Builder. That's awesome. And even though you may have busted it, go into the App Builder channel and ask for help.
Yeah, we'll do.
All right, thank you so much. Hope to see you present again something else that you did that was cool. We like seeing those things. All right, Sam, you're up next. And after Sam, we will see whether we've got anyone else who's going to demo for us.
Hello. Yeah, so I just wanted to demo off a cool feature I kind of figured out in a good way with App Platform, or sorry, App Builder. I keep on saying App Platform, sorry. The specifically with code modularity and some good coding practices as well with JavaScript and extending out the capabilities of what you can do. So let me share my screen here, and I'll kind of show you what one of my problems was and how I figured out a solution to it. So basically, I had an issue where I just wanted to update the favicon in the URL, which, if you aren't aware, that's just the icon that shows up in the URL above the URL in your tab in your web browser. In my case, I obviously don't like the Rewst one, so I just wanted to have our peak URL right there. So basically, I just first created a script for that. So I just did some basic JavaScript. When the page loads up, execute the function, which basically just creates an icon, pulls in from our website, and adds that into the HTML onto the page. So what you basically do is when the page loads up, it will execute this and it will update the favicon. That's a great script. But then I was like, well, what happens if I need to change this URL? What happens if this URL changes? Now I have to update it across many different pages, especially if I was using the built-in HTML component. So I was like, okay, well, how can I do this more efficiently? So I actually ended up using creating a custom component, and you can actually use that across all your different sites. So if I pull up this and we go in here and just create a test page too, I'll hop in here and we'll pull up our custom components. And now you can see I have this favicon custom component here. All this does is just pulls in from the script template that I created over here. So that allows me to basically update pages that use that script template. So it's kind of almost like a function or a method in a typical programming language where you can call that and update it as well. So that's why I wanted to demo off here. But it's really cool because I can take the same script template, and now all I literally did was just copy and paste this custom component onto the page. And if you wait a little bit, it will update to our URL here. Sometimes I think it just caches it, so we'll see if it updates here quickly. I found that this works sometimes. Let's see. If I add a component to it, like a text box or something, it'll go way quicker. Let's see. So we'll just do hi there. We'll relaunch this. And if the demo gods are with me, it should change the favicon, but maybe it doesn't. It's weird. Okay, that didn't
Let's
go
do-
as I planned.
Let's do live debug.
Yeah, it's yeah, it doesn't
And-
want to work. Even though I use, oh, there you go. Now it changed. It just took its time. I think it was just because the web browser or whatever was very slow with executing the function on the load for whatever reason.
And I want to mention, Sam, that native functionality for favicons are in a pull request coming soon.
Yeah, I do. I was kind of demoing off here, not just necessarily like the favicon icons, but mostly just being able to use the scripts. And so what I can basically do is I have this console.log, and if I just uncomment that out, update the script, and reload my page, now you can see I'm going to have that log message show up here. So that's been updated. Let's see, we should be getting that log. This is a test log message. Maybe my web browser is caching this off. There you go. Just took a moment. This is the test log message, so you can see that popped up there. And I just edited the script here. So this allows me to basically take, have a common set of elements across all my different pages. And now I can just modify them in this one script, which is really cool. So I can do that across apps since it's all just referencing the script, which is pretty cool. So that's why I wanted to demo off here.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Sam? Very cool use of custom components. Awesome. All right. Alden, do you want to hold off? We can kind of have some, we're basically at time. If anybody has anything else they want to demo, I'll pause for a few seconds to let somebody chime in if they think so, but we can also have discussion time.
I almost have something. I have a fun talking point, but for some reason my bot doesn't want to talk back to me. So as soon as I can get that debugged, I can pop back in here, but it'll probably be like 2 or 3 more minutes before I get that going.
Does anybody have any questions they want to ask or anything that they want guidance on? We can chat for a bit.
Kelvin asked Sam, why are you so good?
I don't know. It's actually kind of funny because I kind of started out when I was in high school. There were a few people. I did Cisco networking, so I came in and I got my CCNA and all that kind of stuff. But when I did that, there were a few people, ironically, who were coding in React Native at the time, and I kind of dismissed it. And I was like, "Oh, I don't like coding." Like I was learning Java at the time. I was like, system.println, system.out.println, and calling main method and doing all that stuff. It's like I don't see the real world application in any of that because just creating these command prompt programs are not like, who's going to do that in 2024? That's not going to happen. So I was like, okay, well, I can see the practical use in networking. So I continued on. I went into college, did some Java stuff, and it really took off when I took a CSS, JavaScript, and HTML class and used like Ajax and things like that. And I saw, hey, wow, you can use a database. And I learned about MySQL databases and Oracle SQL databases. And then I was like, oh, well, what could I do now that I have all this knowledge with databases and coding? How can I create something together? So I created this cool like QR code application in college, which was pretty cool. And it basically allows you to generate a QR code, scan it, and it would bring you up to the user's profile. And you could go in and edit the profile, kind of like a LinkedIn application at the time. And I built that using PHP. So I did all that kind of stuff. And once I came to my MSP, I was like, well, how can I integrate this? And I was just looking through our processes, and I'm like, really? Like what is our process behind decommissioning a computer? Like, why does it have to be this whole like page? And the issue becomes that things just don't get done properly, and then somebody has to come back around and fix them. And it's like, I don't want to spend all my time here looking through computers and right clicking and deleting them. That's not like, I don't find that appealing of my time. And I moved into that type of role, and then we came in with a ton of tickets, and I was like, I'm just going to automate the heck out of things. And basically now I end up with like very few tickets. And it's just so incredible because I was able to look through, and now we're even getting to the point to where we're automating things for our customers, and they look to us and they're like, hey, can you automate this? And I'm like, yep, I'll do that for you. Or like somebody is like, hey, can you please add this user to like 25 different groups? And it's like, okay, I mean, I could have spent an hour doing that with Exchange PowerShell and trying to do all that kind of stuff, or just sit through the web GUI and hope and pray that it doesn't crash. But then I was like, with Rewst, I'm like, oh, well, I can just do this in 2 minutes. And every time I do that, it's just so humbling. And I see somebody using that. It's just like, it's just so much better, like, doing that than going back to how you used to do it. And even like how you, even using something like writing up some PowerShell script or whatever, it just takes way too much of my time to do that anymore. And sure, you can use like AI and things like that too, but I think the future really is going to be using a whole bunch of, maybe using AI, but with like RPA. And I think you're going to see that. That'll be pretty cool, where you can just say, hey, I want to do XYZ with all these apps, and it'll just create the workflow for you, which would be pretty cool. So
Don't spoil our ideas. But I like Kelvin's RPAI. There's the next marketing lingo.
yeah,
Buzzword.
it's kind of funny. We have a few former employees who are now project managers, PMs. I think one of them is a principal over there at Microsoft, ironically. So a lot of our people came from our MSP to Microsoft, which I'm not going to be doing. So
Ooh,
Oh, Alden, is your
Jonathan.
bot talking?
I think Jonathan also said he's got a demo.
Okay. It's Jonathan.
Can jump right in there, Jonathan.
All right. So, first time talking here. I am super nervous.
Oh, is this your
But-
first time?
Welcome.
Oh, well,
Well,
first
it's not my
off,
first time here.
congratulations.
First time talking.
well, thank you.
All right.
Thank you for doing it.
What I'm going to be showing off is kind of not the best implementation, but this kind of idea where we have an options generator and we've got some pretty static list, something that's not going to update really frequently, but is going to take forever to run. So think you've got a list of 80 users on a domain controller, and this thing takes like, 6 minutes to run, or like 15, or like super long, super annoying. And you want it to be in the form, you want it to be dynamic, but it's going to take forever. And you kind of want the list. And so there's the built-in caching, but it requires it to like actually load first. So I kind of want my own cache on the back end. So I kind of came up with this idea to generically process the options generator and save it to someplace, and then just pull that for my options generator instead of calling the options generator itself. So I've got this very generic cached options generator, and all it does is it takes a workflow ID. And what it'll do is, if it is from a completed options generator, it will save it there. So you can use a SQL database or something that's quite good and quite nice, but I currently having it just saving it to an environment variable. So within an organization, it will basically dynamically create an org variable with this result. And so it saves it, and then if we ever get an actual call to use this as an options generator, we just go down the other line, sorry, I'm switching it back and forth. One of these lines saves it, one of these lines pulls it. And that means that we can have something that might normally take, 15 minutes to run, and we just routinely update it. And then whenever we need to pull it for the form, we just call this workflow and it'll get the cached version in a very quick time frame. And then we can just on the back end define how frequently we want that to update. So I have something I threw together in like literally the 3 minutes I was on here, an example where we have the regular call, a form field that just calls my sandbox workflow, which is artificially delayed to take forever. And then the cached version, which calls my options generator, and it just specifies the workflow ID. So if you are to view this, for example, the cached one is going to come up as quick as it takes to pull an environment variable, which is, a few seconds. And then the regular one is delayed as long as it would be. I've got it set for 4 minutes. It'll spin and spin and spin and spin. It'll take forever. If you've got it set, if you've got a long list of 80 users and you've got it set to cache, it'll take even longer because it'll put all of those in the regular cache. So this is just one use case, and it's really not too difficult to put into practice. It's made so generalized that you can put it on top of synced options generators that are, from Rewst crates. You don't actually have to modify the workflow to get it to work, so long as the workflow puts the options into options. So if we have an example workflow, what you do is you just make it, you just point the completion handler at the cached options generator, and then you make a cron to update it. So you make a cron, that way you can specify some interval that you want it to run on. So you say you want it to update every minute. Wow, I was very optimistic whenever I was demoing this. Every 5 minutes, every 15 minutes, every day, whatever, how often you want it to cache, you just make a cron to run that. And then otherwise, if it's ever run by some other means, it'll also just update with the most recent version. So, you can have this update every day, but if some other method generically calls it, the options or the completion handler will still work to trigger it to be saved inside of this cached options generator workflow. So it's kind of a niche thing that I put a lot of time into thinking out how I would do this, how I would generically store data without having to actually influence the workflows. Because, option handlers creates things that I don't necessarily want to touch, but I still want to be able to cache them. So that's pretty much it. There was also a V1 of this that is way over-engineered, and I came up with this way instead. I wonder if I have the view.
That's awesome. So you over-engineered it and then simplified it?
Oh yeah. So in the beginning, I tried to over-engineer it using webhooks to pull in between. And so every workflow that I wanted this to happen on, I said, okay, I'll just give it a webhook to serve out the data. And then I had a workflow which would manage all of the other workflows that had webhooks serving up this data. And then it did its own orchestration of routinely calling them. Very messy. It worked and it's cool, but it's a lot nicer to just manage it within a cron on the workflows that you actually want to routinely cache. It was like 7 times this size.
That's awesome. As somebody whose brain literally checks out every time I try to present and then I forget until I watch back recordings afterwards, I know it feels very different, but you didn't sound nervous at all. You sounded deeply invested and knowledgeable about what problem you've been trying to solve. Thank you very much for showing that off.
Thank you. And why would we need to cache stuff for folks that are listening is some RMMs take 20 minutes to respond. And so let's say you're working on a form or an automation that needs an RMM to return a list. Why make your form or automation wait 20 minutes? Why not use cache data? How did we end up in a world where it takes an RMM 20 minutes to return the results of a command?
I don't know. But I saw someone say it in the chat, and the culprit is data.
They took the REST component of REST API too, literally. I love it.
Didn't you say, isn't it just calling something to trigger a scheduled task to then go and pull stuff back? Isn't that like how that's working on the back end? Might be confusing that somebody else is saying.
I
But
think
like,
it is. I think it's, yeah, putting it into like a scheduler, where with Automate, we were able to put it in as a command rather than a script. Because if we ran it in Automate the same way and use the script functionality instead, we'd get the same slowdown because it
Yeah.
would go into the script queue. Kelvin was asking earlier about some metrics on how many workflows are running and things.
Yeah,
so
what's the most data Rewst has processed so far?
Well, they dig up that data. Is someone digging it up? I had a funny metric, and I made, if I can get your folks' approval on the call, I would anonymize this. But I've got you'll be surprised by this, Kelvin. I have a Grafana view for something.
Oh, really?
I have a Grafana view of recently updated workflows by customer and by workflow name. And in any given hour, and this holds true, even like I woke up at 6 a.m. usually, and it still holds true even then. At any given hour, 100 workflows have been modified or created, new workflows. It's crazy. There is no slow time for Rewst where, people are doing less stuff on it. Daniel with an A is the one that normally collects the workflow metrics. Tim or anybody have?
So a couple of metrics. So last month, we ran in the US instance, the main instance, we ran 500 million tasks, 509 million. That was last month. As of today, this month, we're at 577 million tasks. So we're almost doubling month over month. And that's just the one instance. So like UK, much smaller instance. Not a lot of people are in there yet, but they're at 75 million this month. And that's this month they're at 75 million. Last month they were 80 million. So again, the month isn't over. We still have almost half a month left. Well, 8 days. So you can see just how quickly things are growing.
And then we live in this unique world. So as an MSP, you folks kind of have an idea. You're going to onboard a 100 endpoint company, what your costs are going to be. We onboard an MSP and they might build 5 workflows, or they might build 550 workflows.
Yeah. And I think I mentioned it too. Like last month, we were at over 1 million hours saved per month.
And how much of that is negative time savings?
Negative, all of them are negative time savings.
who was it that was saying that they could just make their own? I think that we should actually have that demo. Use Rewst to solve your limitations with Rewst.
I've seen that several times. Rewst fixing Rewst. Anyone else want to show off their screen?
I'm so mad. Like this would have made Eddie happy. If I could have gotten this working in my dev environment. At least I want to explain the
Hard
issue
mode.
because
Show it anyway.
it is as somebody who has gone through the 200 course, like hopefully most of you have, and if you haven't, you're kind of working your way towards there. We did a lot more learning about anti-patterns and things that, you know, we're doing repetitive tasks in our automations instead of having our automations do the repetitive tasks. For me, one of the biggest ones that I have right now is I do large queries using an Azure Bot. And so I am having I'm having some issues here where give me just a second. I'm sorry. Apologies. UPS decided that they're more important than you guys. So yeah, I'm having an issue where I sent out a message that says, you know, please wait for the results because it can take like 5 minutes to get everything back. And then if it crashes, that message doesn't get erased because at the end of the workflow, and I can take a screenshot of it, but I don't have it on this computer. At the end of the workflow, we end up showing, you know, we end up having a the message ID stored where you can just do a delete request against the Teams API to delete it. And you know, I think I'm on my now 5th time I've implemented that, and obviously at that point, I am doing the repetitive process that I shouldn't be doing. And so I was planning on building that all out into a sub workflow, storing that, having a webhook spawn off, and then hit that webhook when it finished doing the task. But Microsoft doesn't want to work with me today, so I'll go ahead and just share in the chat though what the bad workflow looks like. And so, I mean, a lot of you have seen my workflows. You are familiar with the art that I make. And so the send please wait going into the sanity check with the wait for results chaining into the delete message is super unnecessary. And so you know, it's one of those anti-patterns that kind of just, you know, wastes your time and really makes an automation less optimal, especially if you're having to remember to do this every single time. And then when you forget, you end up getting in trouble. So, God, I would totally do just like a skeleton of how that would work.
Huh?
But essentially, yeah, the idea that I have here is taking that as a sub workflow that's going to send that, and then do a temporary webhook, expose that as the output of the workflow, pop that out to everything, and then at the afterwards it just does an HTTP request and closes that webhook and finalizes the deletion of the message, so that it's all stored in one nice little sub workflow instead of having to go crazy there. Kelvin, as you can tell, it doesn't work on people. Have you talked to me?
Jen, I love your background. So funny.
But apparently, if you spin up 3 different bots in the same resource group, one of them being a React.js and the rest of them, one of them being React.js and the other 2 just being SDK 3 using REST, Microsoft doesn't like that. It's weird.
Why are you using the Azure Bot framework and not just an OpenAI instance?
Because I mean, this is a major line of business application at this point. Rewst is our primary line of business application, and so we are saving. We're getting
pressure goes down.
we're getting like 70,000 tasks done per week, which is nice, and then that equates to about 400 hours of time savings. But I can't quite bake in the actual time savings due to not being able to math in the time savings field. But that's pretty much the idea, is that this spits out probably an hour's worth of somebody's work in 3 minutes over the course of 400 Teams messages that it shoots out at them. Because then they can copy and paste that into an email or into a secondary bot that then turns that into a web page template.
Wait. Another bot that turns the results into a web page?
Yeah, get a second bot that is also feeding things into ChatGPT. The idea is to keep people from jumping to 20 different single pane of glasses. I don't know. Maybe this is just me as an MSP, but I hated that every tool I used was a single pane of glass, and it just ended up being a stained glass window at that point. And so instead, living out of Teams, you do get to live within within SharePoint, having your bots talking to ChatGPT and coming back to you as a human instead of just dumping JSON at you, which is what would make me happy. But having to remember to do all these fail safes and send the message that says, "Hey, the bot is doing something. Don't just wait half an hour and come back to me and say it's broken." That's the point of the please wait, and it does just send a message that says please wait, and then at the very end it deletes that, and that's how my staff know that they can move on with their day. And when the message doesn't delete, they get very impatient.
Yes, it's good standards.
I got a little something I can show if you want, a little fun thing.
Yeah, let's do it, Reed.
All right, this is something I started a while ago, and then I think it was actually someone at Rewst did a demo close enough to the same that I just didn't do it. Wait, that's not what I wanted to share. Try again. That's better. So, speaking of OpenAI, I've got a specifically crafted ChatGPT that makes DnD resources. So this has a trigger to a form which is actually then in a app platform. So it just feeds in the description. Basically, you're going to tell it what to create and then describe that. And then it's going to throw that out into Azure Tables, which is my favorite place to stick things. The team did a great job making these super easy to use. And then there's another workflow that just gets that content back so that my little app platform or app builder app can consume those. And so it's just this silly little, we get a grid with, stuff that's been generated. I haven't done a lot to really make it consumable, but if we click create content, then, I don't know if anybody has anything they want to create, but let's just make a,
an angry dwarven goat. Angry goat. Yeah.
There we go. So we'll just submit that. And then this is where, you know, it could be a little fancier. There's probably a way to get it to refresh and use some completion handlers or something to get this to respond to when that ChatGPT workflow finishes. But otherwise, we can just kind of refresh it here. And we should get a new NPC at some point.
Does it pick the level based on what the level the party is?
Right. Like, so the more you describe it, the ChatGPT is pretty well tuned to give you what you need based on what's going on. So if you take the time to kind of describe what you really want, then yeah, I mean, I've generated encounters that are suitable for a party and so on. It works pretty well just messing with the ChatGPT side. I haven't done a lot with this interface for it.
It's really awesome.
So anyway, yeah, I don't know what's holding up here. My ChatGPT might be out of credits. Who knows? But you kind of get the idea. It will eventually give us a new NPC character here that it will describe. And, you know, anybody who's done this, trying to get it to consistently return the same kind of data can be very difficult. But you do get usable data. You know, if you actually wanted to.
So now I think we need a mud that runs in Rewst.
Well, wait a minute.
Oh my goodness.
Well, wait a minute.
Yes.
I thought that was too abusive. I took your
Well,
response, Tim, as
An
don't
MMO,
do that.
yeah, would be, but like just an old school mud, I think we could pull off.
Oh my God.
Without any background like full-time logic, just something that's driven by every interaction that it receives.
Exactly. Yeah. Not worrying
Okay,
about where
all right,
sprites
all
are
right.
and things.
That's a
but, yeah.
compromise. I can work with that.
All right. So in 2 weeks, Bree's gonna come back to us.
Oh shoot. All right, anyway.
Yeah. Text mode mud. That's what we need.
I love it.
Oh my God, I love it so much. It's we need it today. Can someone can someone subscribe me to the alpha?
Kelvin, I was gonna try and give us like the Rewst version of old school RuneScape, but yeah, I know, but I was told not to push it that far.
I'm thinking a name for it is Legend of the Green Rooster. That would work. Any old
Steward's Quest
fans
1
out there?
All right.
You know, while we're just chatting, I did learn something that might be useful if anybody else wants to play with like paint generating art for you and things. Like, just be aware that right now the filters are super, super tight. So be prepared to get banned for doing just like completely innocuous things. I was trying to generate some like pixel art warrior and wizard characters and got shut down for a day for abusive searches or abusive requests.
The NVIDIA like RTX paint is really fun. You should give that a go while you're shadow banned.
I wasn't aware. I will look for that.
It's awesome. You do like stick figure drawings and it will give you like a 8K canvas like beautiful drawing.
Oh, I gotta go find this. Cool, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if you're one to up your game with image generation, if you've got your own equipment, your own graphics card, then look up Comfy UI. I'm pretty sure they have an API that you could then integrate with Rewst. And you set up Rewst-like workflows for the image generation, but then you can call those with variables in the API. So you set up like, hey, I want a DnD, I want all this stuff as the base background, and then all you're calling is, you know, the finer details. and you get very consistent like portrait pictures or whatever.
Yeah, what does that
off
really
your own
well?
hardware. Sorry, what?
What did you say does that really well?
Comfy UI. Comfy UI is what it's called. You can set up a Docker container for it pretty easily. And again, I'm pretty sure it has a web API that you can then plug something like Rewst into.
It does, but it does require like 12 to 24 gigs of VRAM to.
Oh yeah,
not
you can be tough. Yeah,
have
yeah.
that.
Stable diffusion is heavy, but
Yeah.
you know, if you got one laying around, I've got a couple laying around, so I do all kinds of fun stuff with that.
Very cool.
And you won't get banned because it's your own equipment.
Right? Yeah, content's always an asset. It's always been my limitation for any kind of games or anything like this. I mean, the engines are the easy part.
All right, folks. Let's end this thing.
Great demos, everybody. Thank you for
Yeah.
bearing in mind.
Although
I
we
know.
had a bunch of newbies too. We had two
Yeah.
people who've never presented before, and they both did fantastic.
And it's stressful. So thank you, newbies who did that. Like you didn't have to jump in and do it, but you did it anyway. So thank you very much for showing off what you're working on. Thank you, Ash, for the help. And thank you, everybody, for joining. And we'll see you again next week. Have a good weekend, everybody. See you.
Bye.